morning, kids. It is the early bird classroom on a Friday. Thank you for joining me. I am so happy if you are here with me because you're not used to seeing me on a Friday. I know. And you're also not used to seeing me, kind of close to 8 o'clock, no matter what day it is. But I'm here and we are here and I'm not 100% ready, but I kind of am, I started on time with at least with the PowerPoint. Carol Merrill. None of you know who Carol Merrill is. Why do we start that way? We are here and we are going to continue talking about what? Our book on handling our ups and downs. So if you give me a second, I'm going to get a water because I didn't do that. There's my book right over there. So I'll pick up my book. I'll pick up our what? Our 101 ways to improve our grammar. And then we really will get started. So I'll be right back. Put up my be right back slide. Sorry I didn't play you a song while I was gone. I probably could have played you a nice song. Maybe even the ABC song from Greg and Steve. Thank you, Greg and Steve, for always letting me use your ABC song. I am so grateful for that. Okay, so a couple things. Number one. This is what we're going to probably start with this. That's usually our first slide, right? So our first slide is from 101 Ways to Improve Your Grammar Skills. But here's our book. Here's our book, Handling Our Ups and Downs. And I think what we will do is, I always like to start reading with you. I don't like to start with questions. That just seems like it's so, gosh, can we jump in right in? Or can we just get used to the water a little bit? Let's get used to the water a little bit, right? Do you know what I mean? Like when you're swimming, it's cold. Like today in Michigan, look at that out there. It's so cold today. What's happening to June? June's my month. And oh, by the way, Main Street, how come you don't have any June birthdays up there? Hello, it's June 16th. You should be having June birthdays up there. I would like to be recognized for my June birthday. Hello. Okay. But I wanted to show you outside. Look at, it's just such a dreary day. And you know how it's a dreary day? Because you could see everything outside there. And the only reason why I'm kind of showing you is because there was a boat that just went by. Yeah, I know. A boat in the cold at 8 a.m. in the morning. What are you doing? What are you doing? Those fish are staying low where it's warmer. No, colder. They're coming up where it's warmer. You don't know what fish do. This is clear. I do not know what fish do. I don't go fishing for fish. I don't go fishing with the PHISH either. Fishing or fishing. But I am fishing for my glasses now. And that's FISH, fish. For my glasses right now. Now remember where I put them. I can see them. They're not upstairs. I think they're right there. Okay, so I have my lemon water. You should have something. I hope that you're eating something for breakfast. When you get older, you get your energy like from different things. So maybe not so much for breakfast. And as we're reading in the Mostly True Adventures of Homer P. Fig, I do not have a Mrs. Bean who is willing to make pancakes and eggs and bacon and toast for me for breakfast. Where's my Mrs. Bean? But you should have breakfast. If you're a young person, you do need to eat more than older people do. You use a lot more energy. You're made to use a lot more energy. And even if you weren't using energy, your body needs the energy to grow. My body doesn't need energy to grow. I'm already full grown, so I don't need energy to grow, but your body does. So you should start your day with breakfast. And by the way, breakfast even helps you maintain a good weight because what it does is it gets your metabolism started. Now, you don't need a Mrs. Bean breakfast, right? It'd be nice maybe on Saturdays to have a Mrs. Bean breakfast or on Sundays to have a Mrs. Bean breakfast because that's supposed to be our 7th day of rest, right? Remember? Remember from the 10 Commandments? Remember? If not, let me help you remember. 10 Commandment number 3. Keep holy the Sabbath, the longest commandment that there is. 4th commandment, don't take the Lord's name in vain. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? We can't get mad? We should think about that sometimes, right? We should think about that sometimes. But that's not why we're here, right? That's not why we're here. We are here, and I need my glasses. We are here to read our book. So I know my glasses are right there. They're just right there. And why don't I play the ABC song? Because Greg and Steve love it when I do. I think they might. Only because they let me do it all the time. And so maybe they like me playing their game. I mean, their song. Oh, their game. Who knows? Okay, ABC song. We got our phonics day going up there. That's our phonics day. When I actually can change cameras, and that's kind of cool. able to hear me sing with that, but I can't hear the music. And since I can't hear the music, I can't sing with it. And I can't hear the music because I don't have any headphones on. And I don't do headphones because, you know, I'm more worried about my hair than Joe Rogan is. Dr. Feravich, if you want any of those worksheets, or if you just want to know what's, coming up, or something about the classroom, Dr. Dr. Feravich, F as in Frank, ERA, V as in Victor, ICH, at healthymindbodyspirit.net. Thanks for joining me in the early bird classroom. Watch, magically, we will switch cameras. I think that's what I'm going to start doing. Whoop, when I switch cameras. I did it. Didn't switch cameras right there. Can't do it with both hands and switch cameras because one hand is going, switch camera. Okay. Let's go back to our tip number 11. And we're going to start doing something a little bit different with our grammar. We are going to start doing our grammar on Grammar Day. Why? When's Grammar Day? First of all, when's Grammar Day? Wednesday, right? Wednesday is Grammar Day. But now why? Why are we going to switch this to Grammar Day? Well, because we're not doing grammar on Grammar Day, right? We're doing science and math, or math and science, whichever way you like it best. On Wednesdays, we're doing math and science on Wednesdays. And so now what we're going to do is, so that we could talk a little bit as reminders in review of our phonics and grammar, we are going to still talk a little bit about that on Wednesdays as well. So we have a packed Wednesday, so come with us on Wednesday. But we're still only here for 45 minutes. So you could make it. You could do it. 100 ways to improve your grammar skills. Right? Number 11, rewrite or rephrase to avoid problem areas. And so this is kind of like keep a grammar notebook, but one of the problems, and this is why this is such a good tip, one of the problems that we have when we can't remember a rule is we may not understand the rule. And if we rewrite the rule in our own words, we probably will better understand the rule. Okay? All right? So that's what this is. The rules that you have trouble with in grammar, mine is always lie and lay, right? I know that you can lie down, or do you lay down? I know you use L-I-E, not just to mean, a person, a liar, what a liar does, right? L-I-E. It also means to lay down, but I don't know what tense that is. I don't know. If I wrote down the rule and I know, right? Keep a grammar notebook. If I would have kept a grammar notebook about that, maybe I would have been better at it. But this one says, but maybe the problem was I just didn't understand the rule and that I needed to put it in my own words. So that is grammar tip number 11. Those grammar rules that you didn't remember or you don't understand that you have in your notebook, don't just write down the rule like it is in your textbook. Write down the rule in a way that you can understand the rule better. Okay? And in order to show you that I can do it too, I am going to get that lay-lie rule down, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it in a notebook. I'm going to get the grammar book that I got from my book sale at our library bookstore for approximately 10 cents. No, I didn't. I got it at the yard sale. I did. So that one was $1. That book cost $1. And I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look up that lay-lie rule. And then just, try and do what it tells me to do. I'm going to listen to our book. That author probably knows what they're talking about. Sometimes more than I do. I said sometimes. Yeah. I don't know that author. But there's probably 101 ways that this author kind of does know a little bit more than I do about grammar. Not 101. Just letting you know. I'm pretty good at what I do. Handling your ups and downs. So that wasn't just our reading there. I'm going to start with reading. All right. And because I've read most of this, I'm really having a hard time. I was really having a hard time remembering where we left off. But I remember the pictures. So I think we did guilt. So if you remember, we had comfortable and uncomfortable feelings, right? And I'm not going to go over the comfortable feelings because that'll be part of our questions, and that will help us review then when we go do our questions. But our uncomfortable feelings started with chapter 2 after the introduction in chapter 1. And then it started with anger, if you remember. And all of these words are in our sight words. So if you're having trouble reading along, because this is a read-along book, all right? If you're having trouble reading along with me, then go to your sight words. And what you'll want to do is you'll try and memorize those sight words. We have 250 sight words on page 6. No, 300 sight words. On page 6 of our sight words, we have words from this story, all right? So that helps you along. But we're trying to read along. So anger and even big words like uncomfortable is part of our sight words. So now we can learn to spell big words like uncomfortable, which we also know has a prefix, un, and a suffix, able. And so really all we have to remember is the root word comfort. Put a suffix on it, comfortable. Put a prefix on it, uncomfortable. Okay. And I'm pretty sure we did guilt. Let's take a look at the slide that goes with this. So we're going to do the slides right along with our uncomfortable feelings, even though, as you see, I'm going through the comfortable feelings, right? Okay, so I'm going to leave the questions up there. And I'm just going to reread guilt even if I didn't reread it, even if I didn't read it, okay? Or actually, I'm not going to leave the questions up there. I'm going to put them up there as soon as I'm done, when we get to the page. Guilt is the feeling of having done something wrong. Guilt is an emotion that makes people feel uncomfortable. So here we can see snatch. He snatched the candy. I don't think we did this one. But sometimes guilt makes a person do what needs to be done. I took this candy without paying for it. I felt so bad, I had to bring it back. We did a quote from Ernest Hemingway yesterday. Let's see. If I could find it. Because it was a really good quote about comfortable, and it was using, and I found it for another class, and it was using those words comfortable and uncomfortable, and there it is, and there it is. Look at this. Here in our spiritual classroom, Here was a quote that I used from Ernest Hemingway, and when I found it, I thought of this classroom. I know only that what is moral is what you feel good after, and what is immoral is what you feel bad after. So what is moral is what you feel good after, and what is immoral is what you feel bad after. That's exactly what we're reading right now, isn't it? Isn't that funny? I think it's kind of funny sometimes how, because I believe in a higher power. I believe in a higher power that's outside of me, that also knows more than I do. Isn't just outside of me, but knows more than I do. Because I think he gives me little gifts like that. I think he gives me little gifts like look, Annette, here's a nice quote for your spiritual classroom that you could also use in your early bird classroom. That's what I think sometimes he does for me. And I think he does it for me because he knows I get happy and excited when he does those things for me. And I'm thankful that he does those things for me. And I think sometimes that's why he does them for me. Sometimes I think he does it for people who aren't thankful, to help them maybe have times where they should be thankful, right? The sun rises and sets on the good as well as the bad. It's a great quote. It means God has no favorites. Because if he did, maybe then this person here, if God had favorites, maybe then this little boy, he wouldn't have felt so bad. He'd be like, well, what does it matter? Even if I do the right thing, God's not going to favor me. God favors everybody. It's not that he doesn't favor some, it's not that he favors some and not others. And it's not that he favors nobody. So it must be that he favors everybody. Must be. So sometimes guilt can help us do the right thing, right? And look what he did. This person turned it back. He turned the candy back in. I don't know if they wanted it in the store, but lying, pretending that nothing happened, or trying to hide what you have done wrong is not a good way to handle your guilt. Admitting that you did something wrong, saying you're sorry, and whenever possible, trying to make up for what you have done. I think we did read this, right? Because we said those three things. So what are we supposed to do? Admitting we did something wrong, saying we are sorry, and if it's possible, try and make up for what we've done. Do you know who got into these cookies? No, Mommy. And then, I took the cookies, Mommy. I'm sorry. I won't take any for dessert. So, admitted she did something wrong. She said she was sorry. And she made up for it by not taking any cookies for dessert. I went a little faster because I think we did that one. It's okay. Because it was a review all the way from Tuesday. And this is Friday. But we did need to look at think. What does it mean to be angry? Have you ever felt angry? List some things that make you angry. When was the last time you got angry? What did you do? And how did you handle your anger? All right, that's anger. I should have gone on to guilt. I had 2 slides on anger. What is guilt? Have you ever felt guilty? List some things that you have done that made you feel guilty. Or if you can't list them because you're not good at writing yet and spelling and it's hard for you to do, you can have somebody who's older help you list those things. That will help you with your writing and it will also help you with your spelling. When was the last time you felt guilty? What did you do? How did you handle your guilt? See how it's pretty good right now to have a partner to help you do some of these things? It is, because not only are you able to help make sure you're staying on track, like you know what guilt is, you have somebody who answers your questions if you're not sure about what it is, but then also you have somebody to tell these things to, right? So that there's somebody there so you can say, hey, this is the last time I felt guilty. Otherwise, what are you just doing? You're like, when was the last time you felt guilty? What did you do? That's you thinking about it because you're not talking about it. And you should talk about it with somebody. It's a good idea. We know that confession is good for the soul. What does that mean? That means that when you tell somebody what you did wrong, that's a confession. I took the cookies. That's admitting that you did something wrong. That's a confession. We know that confession is good for the soul. So just thinking about what you did, that isn't enough. Confession, saying it, makes you feel better, right? Confession, saying it, I took this candy without paying for it. Saying it makes you feel better. Handling your ups and downs. When you feel guilty, what should you do? Admit it, say you're sorry, and try and do something to make up for it. Perfecto! Perfecto! Jealousy is wishing that you were like another person or wishing that you had what another person has. Jealousy is an emotion that makes people feel uncomfortable. I wish this was my report card. Have you ever felt that way before? Have you ever wished that you had somebody else's report card? Have you ever seen somebody with all A's and wished you had their report card? I did. I wished I had Michelle Ward's report card. I did. I even took one of her papers one time when both of our papers didn't have a name on it, and she had 100%, and I had 3 wrong, and I couldn't believe I had 3 wrong. And you know, I had 3 wrong, and that was a lot for me. That was a lot. I was so embarrassed. So the teacher threw the papers in the middle of the floor and said, I don't know who these papers are. And I took Michelle's, and I knew I did, and she knew I did too. I don't think the teacher gave me credit for it. I don't know. Maybe she did. Who knows? The teacher should have known. I felt so bad. I've confessed that, Michelle, over the years. I have. But sometimes jealousy makes a person do what needs to be done. He may get straight A's, but I can draw better. And anyway, I was elected class president. Sometimes this book, though, she's got an attitude. There's nothing wrong with him getting A's, right? And she doesn't have to have an attitude about it, that he gets A's. He's not a bad person because he got A's, right? But she's good that she feels good about herself. And I don't know why she felt bad in the first place, because she was elected class president. That's pretty good to me. Saying mean things about other people, hurting them in any way, or trying to compete with them is not a good way to handle jealousy. Handle, if that's a hard word for you right there, if handle is a hard word for you, that's in our sight list words, because I thought it might be hard. Especially because handling is in our title. That baby is a drag. All he does is cry. That probably hurts that mama's feelings. Telling someone you are jealous and asking for help or attention are good things to do when you are jealous. Other good things to do are try not to compare yourself with others. That is really good advice. That is really good advice. That's the reason why the phone is so harmful. As adults, we know that the phone is so harmful because on the phone, very often you're comparing yourself to others, and that we know that that's not good. Concentrate on the fact that you are a special person and unlike any other person. Think about the fact that you have many things that no one else has. And it's kind of funny because it takes us until we're adults to really start really appreciating that we have many things no one else has, and appreciating that we are unlike any other person. It's sometimes not till we're adults that we appreciate that we are unique, and that we are different than others. When we're younger, we like to be the same as everybody else. But when we get older, we like to be different. So you can feel better and less jealous if you think about your special qualities, that your personality is different and special, and that many people don't have many things that you have. Mother, I feel jealous because you give Johnny so much attention. Would you play with me when you finish with him? Of course, honey, I will. So see, she's asking what she wants, right? And isn't that nice that the mom will do that when she finishes with him? So it was very nice for her to wait for mom to finish with the baby, with Johnny, right? That was very nice of her to wait. And sometimes maybe if we're doing something else that's good, like being patient, maybe that will help us with our feelings that aren't so good, like jealousy. Maybe. I have to turn this heater on. I'm cold. It's cold in Michigan. What does it mean to be jealous? Have you ever, oh my gosh, have you ever felt jealous? Yes or no? List some people of whom you felt jealous. So list some names of people that you're jealous of. They said it that way. List some people of whom you felt jealous, because that is grammatically correct. Even though it may make more sense to you to say list some people who you are jealous of, that's not grammatically correct. So, and remember, sometimes it doesn't sound right because we don't speak right. But if more and more often we speak grammatically correct, then it's going to sound right as well. List some people of whom you felt jealous. When was the last time you felt jealous? What did you do? How did you handle your jealousy? So some really good things to think about when we're trying to handle our downs, right? These are really good things to think about. And it's also a really good thing for you to know what's the matter. It's a really good thing for you to know what's the matter. Sometimes people feel this. That baby is a drag. All he does is cry. They don't say it. Sometimes they just feel it. But they don't know why they feel that way about the baby. Sometimes people feel this. That person is a drag. It doesn't have to be a baby, right? That person is a drag. All she ever does is brag about her A's. Sometimes we think it, right? About a lot of things. That person is a real drag. All they ever do is brag about their cooking. All they ever do is try and get the teacher's attention. All they ever do is raise their hand to try and get called on. A lot of times we feel bad about something that somebody else is doing, but we don't know why. We don't know why. And what that little girl knows is that she felt jealous. That's what we need to also do to handle our ups and downs. When we feel bad about something, what we want to do is we want to be able to think, what am I feeling? What am I feeling when I feel bad after I did something wrong? What am I feeling when I feel bad after I did something wrong? Well, in this case, I'm feeling guilt. In this case, what did I do that was wrong? I was wishing I was something else or somebody else. What is that called? Jealousy. Or I was wishing for something else that somebody was getting. Attention. What is that? That's jealous, being jealous. That's jealousy. What can you do? Don't compare yourself to others, right? And look at your good qualities. Remember, when it appears that someone is getting more attention or has more than you, it is normal for you to be jealous. It is also normal to be jealous of a person who seems to be better than you. But when you are jealous, try not to say mean things about the person, hurt the person in any way, or compete with the person of whom you are jealous. It is best if you tell someone about your jealousy, ask for help or attention, try not to compare yourself with others, think about the fact that you are a special person and unlike anyone else, and think about the fact that you have many things that no one else has. Also, it is normal for you to be jealous of your brothers and sisters. Want to be the best at everything, even though you can't be, because no one is the best at everything. Or want to have the most, even though you can't, because that wouldn't be fair. It's normal for you to be jealous of your brothers and sisters. It's normal for you to want to be the best at everything. But nobody's the best at everything. And it's normal for you to want to have the most. But if you did, it wouldn't be fair. Isn't that great advice? I just think it is just such great advice. You know, we didn't read that page. I didn't read that page because I did the chalkboard instead. So I didn't read that page on guilt. And so I'm going to read this page on guilt as well. Most of this actually is just a review. And so I'm not going to read everything because we are almost tick-tock out of time. And we didn't get through much today on this book either. But I want to read this part here that's new for this. Because we read everything here. This is new. Also, it is understandable when you feel guilty to cry. When you did something wrong and you feel guilty, it's normal to cry. even sometimes when you're admitting that you did something wrong, right? And so you have to go up to your mom and you have to tell your mom that you took the cookies. When you're telling your mom, it's normal for you to cry. I remember one time that I dumped a whole set of her dishes and I broke a whole set of her dishes. My mom's dishes, our dishes, right? The dishes we used as a family. I didn't break the whole set. I broke about 4 out of the 8 plates. About 50% of the plates is what I broke. Maybe a little bit more. And I had to tell my mom. I felt guilty, but I couldn't hide it. There was no hiding that. And I started to cry when I told her because I felt so guilty. It's normal. It is understandable for you to cry, to feel ashamed and embarrassed. Look at her. Don't you think that she looks like she feels ashamed and embarrassed? Right? Doesn't she look ashamed at what she did? She took the cookies. He looks kind of ashamed, doesn't he? A little bit. His eyebrows look a little worried there. Looks kind of ashamed. It is understandable for you to not want everyone to know about what you did, or find it hard to admit that you were wrong and say you are sorry. It's understandable that that's hard for you to do. Just because we're reading a book that tells us what we should do doesn't mean it's easy for us to do. Let's read one more. Grief is feeling sad. Grief is an emotion that makes people feel uncomfortable. I wish Grandma would not have died. She looks pretty sad, doesn't she? She does. But sometimes grief makes a person do what needs to be done. I'm making this scrapbook all about Grandma so that we will never forget her. And maybe it makes us be grateful for her so that we will make the scrapbook with Grandma before she dies, right? Pretending that nothing is wrong or hiding your sadness is not a good way to handle your grief. Admitting that you are sad and talking about your grief are good things to do when you are sad. I'm not going to be sad and cry about Skippy dying. I don't like to think about sad things. I'll just pretend Skippy didn't die. Remember hyperbole and a half. Hyperbole and a half. We can't just pretend that it didn't happen, right? We can't pretend. And so you not liking to think about it, that's normal. That's normal. Just made me think of that hyperbole and a half. And that and they said in there, it always happens to me. Why does this kind of thing always happen to me? Do you sometimes feel that way too? That this kind of thing only happens to you? Well, look, it doesn't. It doesn't. They even have a book about it, right? And nobody wants it to happen to them. And so some people pretend. That's normal. We're going to get to see what are they going to say is normal? Sob. I wish Skippy was still here. It hurts so much to think of not having him around. I already miss him. He already misses him and he just passed away. What's it going to feel like later on? Something to kind of think about. What's it going to feel like later on? Let's see what they have to say about sadness and grief. What is grief? Have you ever felt grief? List some things that make you feel sad. When was the last time you felt sad? What did you do? And how did you handle your grief? Remember, when something sad has happened, it is normal for you to feel grief. How about that? There we go. This up a little bit too. But when you feel grief, try not to pretend that nothing is wrong or hide your grief. It is best if you admit that you are sad and tell someone about your grief. Remember, we have grief in our sight words, right? So if you're not familiar with that word right there, grief is in our sight words, okay? Also, it is understandable for you to cry, want to be alone, wish that whatever is making you sad hadn't happened, or want to forget about what is making you sad. That's normal. That's normal. You know what else is normal? It's also normal for us to try and what we call undo what happened. We try and think about undoing it. Like if Skippy died because he ran across the road, we think about him not running across the road. Or we think about, I know when our first dog died, my mom was on one side of the road and the dog was coming down the road. She had run down the road after my mom, and my mom went to the neighbors to say hi. So the dog, because we lived in the country, was running down the side of the road. And so my mom wanted to get the dog, so she called the dog across the road. But at the very time she called the dog across the road, a car was coming and she didn't look. And so the dog started running to her. And right at that time, she ended up, the dog got hit by the car and she was killed. It was so sad. It was the most sad thing. And she felt very guilty about that. And she, I'm sure, thought about undoing it. About, in her mind, I'm sure my mom thought, if only I hadn't called the dog, and thought in her mind and replayed that over so it didn't happen that way, right? That's another thing that's normal for us to do. But sometimes when we do that in our minds, sometimes it's a lot better to talk to somebody about when we feel sad than it is to just keep it all inside our own minds like that. Okay, well, that was probably not the best way to end our Friday on grief, but remember, we're talking about how to handle our ups and downs. So we're not just talking and ending our chapter, our day on grief, but we're also ending our day on what is normal about feeling sad. And what is normal about feeling sad is that we want to cry. That's normal. And that we want to be alone. That's normal. And that we wish that it never happened. That's normal. And we'd want to forget about it. That's normal. So a lot of times we think this stuff only happens to us. Well, it doesn't only happen to us. And you know why we know? Because Joy Wilt, it happened to Joy Wilt too, because she wrote a book on it. And who's Joy Wilt? We don't even know, other than an author who wrote the book, who feels a lot of the same things we all feel. I feel that same way too. I do exactly that way when I feel grief. It's normal, and it happens to all of us. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thank you for joining me. This is Dr. Annette for the Early Bird Classroom, and I will be back here on Tuesday. And you can watch my other classrooms, my afternoon classrooms, for why I was not here yesterday. But I got my sleep mixed up, and it's all about engagement and all about how to handle stress. A little bit about how to handle stress. But we're here handling stress by reading our book by Joy Wilt, Handling Our Ups and Downs, because that's our series right now. Thanks for joining me. We will be back here on Tuesday. Still reading chapter 2. It's kind of a long chapter, and there's lots of questions to think about. Thanks for sticking with it. I am the teacher, Dr. Annette Feravich. This is the classroom. Thanks.